Hi there, welcome back to Nell's Kitchen. Today I am going to be making a side dish for you that it is wild mushroom risotto. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chop my mushrooms, talk a little bit about these mushrooms. I have three different kinds here today. I have these are oyster mushrooms. They can be found near the regular mushrooms in the produce aisle. These are the oyster mushrooms. You can see they're kind of funny looking. They taste absolutely heavenly though. So to prepare the oyster mushrooms, all you're going to do is you're going to take them and you can see that they're all just kind of solidly clumped onto a kind of a stem there. You're just going to go ahead and trim that stem off. Pretty easy there, like that. Just give them a real rough chop, not a big deal. This is a pretty rustic dish, so you want it to be fairly rustic. You don't need to worry about anything like that. No fine dicing or anything like that going on here. We just got a rough chop, and that's that one. I have my other kind of mushrooms that I have here. I have shiitake mushrooms. Now, shiitake mushrooms, I find that the stems are a little bit too woody for me, for my taste, to use in any of my dishes. So I typically just twist them off and toss them, and I only use the caps. So we're going to use some of these shiitake mushroom caps. And just like the oyster mushrooms, we're just going to go ahead and give them a rough chop here. If you like them finer cut and don't want big huge chunks of mushroom in your dish, that's fine. You can cut them finer. I happen to like I love mushrooms. So then the last kind of mushroom that I'm going to use in my risotto is a baby bella mushroom. They look a lot like the little button mushrooms. They're just baby portobello mushrooms. Some people call them cremini mushrooms. They can be found that way. These ones, the stems are fine if you like them. If not, that's fine too. I'm just going to go ahead and give these a rough chop as well, and then we will go ahead and move into the kitchen. Okay, as you can see, I have taken my mushrooms here and I have sauteed them off in a little bit of butter and olive oil until they are pretty much perfect here. And I'm just going to go ahead and scrape these out and set them aside for now. Now, in that same pan that I just cooked my mushrooms in, still got all the nice flavor and everything, I'm going to go ahead and toss in my rice to saute my rice just a little bit. Now, today I am only making half this recipe, so I'm using 3/4 of a cup of rice. Normally you use 1.5 cups of rice. I turned my heat down to medium after I sauteed my mushrooms because I don't want my rice to burn. I just want it to kind of toast a little. So I'll let that sit there and work for a minute. Now what I'm going to use for cooking my rice for a seasoning mixture, I have a beef stew seasoning mix here. Now again, I'm only making half a recipe, so I already have the beef stew seasoning mix mixed up. I mixed 1 packet with 2 cups of water for half the recipe. I split it in half, but if you're making the whole recipe, you'd mix the beef stew seasoning with the 2 cups of water and then add enough water to make up the rest of the liquid you need in the recipe here. So go ahead and get this stirred. You can smell the rice toasting. You'll know when it's ready. It just changes color just a little bit. Every once in a while you'll get one that pops, and that one's kind of crispy, but that's okay. Not a big deal there. You want to take your mushrooms out because the rice takes long enough cooking in the liquid that your mushrooms will get kind of rubbery. So you don't want to keep cooking your mushrooms for the 20-25 minutes it takes to actually get your rice to cook and soak up all the liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and add my beef stew seasoning mixed with my water. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. Now, I'm going to add about 1 cup more water, and then if I need it, I'll add water about 1/4 of a cup at a time until my rice gets to be as tender as I'd like it to get here. So we'll give that a good zhuzh here. And turn my heat back up and bring it back up to a boil. And once your rice comes back up to a boil, you're going to go ahead and put a lid on it and let it simmer for 15-20 minutes till the water is mostly absorbed. I would go ahead and test it then and see if the rice is as tender as you'd like it to be. And there we go. It's starting to come up to a nice little simmer there. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it and just let it cook for a little while. Okay, as you can see, my rice has soaked up most of the liquid there. So your next step is to just go ahead and return the mushrooms to the pan. And get those all nice and stirred in. And then the very next step is you're going to go ahead and add your Philadelphia cream cheese. Now I'm using plain Philadelphia cream cheese, but for this recipe you could also use the chive and onion or even the garden vegetable if you really wanted to. I'm just going to go ahead and stir in that cream cheese until it all melts and make a nice, thick, really creamy sauce here. Now again, I'm only making half a recipe, so I only used 4 ounces of cream cheese, but if you're making the entire recipe, you go ahead and use the entire 8-ounce block. It might be easier to add it in 2-ounce chunks, in small chunks, add it in small amounts so it's all incorporated, and then you can stir it in. But it does melt up pretty easy, as you can see. It's starting to melt pretty good here. A nice, rich, creamy side dish. Goes good with pork chops, steaks, chicken, anything. Another option, I love soups, so I tend to do what I call leftover makeovers. I add, put some of this in a cup, add some beef broth, heat it up, it makes a great creamy mushroom soup with rice. There you go. That is all stirred in, and the cream cheese just thickens it up beautifully. Now, what I do, just for one other added layer of flavor, is when I go ahead and dish it up here, I am going to sprinkle it with some green onions. They add just a little bit of a crunch and a little bit of a bright color. And you can stir them in just before serving or just sprinkle them right on top. Very yummy.